You program is Vote 2022 on Africa Independent Television, and joining me in the studio for our discussion on the economic blueprint of political parties is Adakole Ijogi. Ijogi is a political economist, and we also have the presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress, AAC, Omoyele Sowore. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think I would like to begin because we have looked at some of the plans, in summary, of course. We've looked at the Umadi Muhammad ticket of the Progressives Grand Alliance, which is majorly the diversification of the monocultural lifeline through effective solid mineral exploitation and developing the manufacturing sector. The Atiku Kowatike says his vision is to transform Nigeria into a modern economy that works for its people and enables it to take its rightful place among the top 20 economies of the world. And policies will be jobs-centered, especially for the teeming youth population. Tinubu Shetima renewed hope, promises national infrastructure campaign and to seek import substitution and tax reforms. So let's ask the presidential candidate of the Africa Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore, what is your economic plan?
Well, it's based on 3 plans. And one is to enhance national security, to enhance self-sufficiency, and economic growth and development.
Yes, the economic aspect is what we're really interested in.
So the economic aspect likely is based on expanding manufacturing, diversifying the power sector. When I mean diversifying is decentralizing it through the use of energy mixes, and just directly also inform Nigerians that power sector growth would rely on transition of power from where we are now to a more green power source for the country, using solar, tidal, and other green energy sources that can easily be grown, developed to enhance the availability of power, energy for the Nigerian people, so that the manufacturing we want, the economic development that we've been speaking about, is not existing without any leg to stand up. So, because we hear this all the time from the other parties, they want to modernize Nigeria, but you can't modernize the country that is in darkness and has no immediate resolution to that problem of lack of energy. There is no country in the world, in the history of mankind, that's ever modernized, that has ever developed without energy. It was the first industrial revolution of all times came because of the discovery of a variety of energy mixes and sources. And the steam engine, for example, is credited with a lot of industrial development around the world that has ballooned into where we are today.
All right, is that all? Just decentralizing the power sector?
No, we talk about power, we talk about manufacturing.
Yes.
We also are speaking about renationalizing a lot of the companies that belong to Nigeria that are now private in good hands, so that give away prices, while Nigeria continue to subsidize those. We also have very serious plan to fix our refineries and create smaller, medium and small scale refineries that can refine petroleum products, so that make them available to our people, and that our people don't go and be praying for petroleum products whenever there's Christmas or the holiday season. This has been a major problem. Nigeria has been assisting an individual to build a refinery by investing $2.5 billion in his own private refinery project. But Nigeria couldn't fix his own 4 refineries, which would have eliminated what we call fuel scarcity. Not today, not yesterday, but since it began in the 80s and 90s.
Now, when you talk about manufacturing, we know that the manufacturing sector has been in the doldrums, basically because of lack of power, which you have addressed.
Yes.
There are also industries that have died, very viable industries that have died over the years. You talk about the companies like Ait 9th Dec, the textile industry. Yeah, the textile industry, which used to be so. And
so the simple thing,
there are some, like even the palm produce that we have in the country there. So what are your plans? Do you intend to revive this sector?
I grew up beside a palm oil producing company in Okitipupa in Ondo State. Not only does it provide jobs for our people, it was a source of development for the area, because somehow they also ensure that, even if it's dirt road, they're done from time to time. And if you look at it today, the cost of the sale of palm oil, or a barrel of palm oil, is higher than that of a barrel of crude oil.
Yes.
So it looks like these areas were deliberately destroyed. We were the ones who gave palm, kernel fruits, seeds to Malaysia. And we are now importing palm oil from them. And so the people who came and governed Nigeria saw oil in large quantities, crude oil, and just started binging on it. It's like they were drinking and they got drunk on it and forgot that you need to invest in other areas that has more economic value than crude. Yes, it is true that crude produces over 6,000 products when it's distilled, but crude is also going out of business. But palm oil is still in business. In fact, it's doing better in business. The reason why most of the companies that we're talking about died in natural death was because the cost of production in Nigeria is higher. It is easier for you today to make your print and buy it from China than to buy from Kaduna, because by the time the person in Kaduna is calculating the cost of buying diesel overnight to produce just what you are wearing, the person in China, by the time they are done with it, with their massive power, investment in power, the cost of production is cheaper over there. The cost of even flying into Nigeria to get to you, get to you faster than the person in Kaduna will get it to you. Because we also don't have means of distributing goods and services. Distributing goods, because our services sector has also died a natural death with it. Look at the banks. The banks are suffering today because their technical, staff have left the country. So what they left is what they are managing. Most of them have to relocate to Ghana, because the backbones for internet in Ghana and even Benin Republic and Togo is better than the one you have here. The cost of internet in Nigeria is more expensive than that of the US. I have unlimited internet, call, voice for $50 in the US. You cannot spend $50 at my level in a week to get internet. And you must get all the 3 networks or 4 before you can be sure. You have to walk to a certain room to get Airtel, walk to another room to get MTEL, walk to another place. Whereas all these are not necessary. If at the time they were building their towers, you make sure that all the towers deal with, the towers belong to one person and all the companies just rent from them. But because of stupid competition, all of them were building towers using diesel to power the tower. If the diesel runs out, there's no network. So everything goes back to energy. So you can't escape it if you don't have people who understand how these things work interrelatedly. You cannot have the kind of economic progress you need. Economic progress is not, formulas. People just make it sound like, by the time you talk about micro and macroeconomic policy, you confuse the public. Yes, you're good. There was a time a lie was told in this country that Nigeria was doing better than South Africa. South Africa has 62,000 megawatts of electricity. You have 7, only 3,000 is working. That can actually power industries at home, which is not enough to power the London Underground, just one line. And you are lying that your economy is better than that of South Africa. And we accepted the lie.
You also talked about investing in other areas. What areas would this be?
We invest in education particularly. Of course, people talk about security because that is what is confronting us right away. But those who understand the way the world works, insecurity don't happen overnight. They happen over a series of missteps and mistakes made by countries. One of those major mistakes is not to invest in young people. When you don't invest in young people, like they usually say in the
human
US,
capital development.
Yes, if you don't develop the human being, if you don't develop in young people, invest in young people, so you better start sewing prison uniforms for them. And now it costs more money to feed a prisoner in Nigeria. I heard it's about 14,000 naira per day, which they never get to eat anyways, than the Nigerian government is investing in kids that are going to university. Are you getting my point? So that investment is compulsory. We got to the point where we must take out the 20 million kids off the street. Make it a crime for parents not to send their children to school. Also make it for a crime for, for governments not to, provide schooling education, because it's actually a constitutional provision in Nigeria that you must invest in the welfare and the well-being of the people. So you from there can expect a future that's guaranteed to develop. See, we're talking about oil here, we're talking about agriculture. For the first time in 9 years, as of today, it's the first time in 9 years that someone who is not in the tech industry is a billionaire. It just briefly, yes, I think it was some guy who appended Elon Musk. Every other person, look at the 10 best performing companies in the world. Only one other company is part of it, Saudi Aramco. The rest is tech. Where do tech people come from? They come from universities mostly. They come from investment in education. They don't come from voodoo, or churches or mosque.
All right, let's quickly look at what you intend to do with the solid mineral subsector. You know that the length and breadth of the north, from north central to the other parts of the north, is lined up with different solid minerals.
Yes, so the most important thing is not to be talking about solid minerals in abstract. And we do that a lot in Nigeria. My state, since we were in primary school, they were saying that Rondo has bitumen, But nobody has been able to confirm the commercial value of Ondo bitumen. I've been asking since I was born, which one is more valuable between Ondo cannabis and the bitumen that we'll be hearing about. The bitumen is probably not valuable, but people just make up stories and say, hey, we have bitumen, we have the largest concentration of bitumen in the world from Ondo to Imo State. But nobody has been able to tap into that because it's probably an urban legend. We just made up the story that we have commercially viable. But I guarantee you that if bitumen is as commercially viable as it's been talked about, the West will be all over the area. They don't mess with resources of that nature. So let's be sure that the resources where the solid minerals we are talking about actually do exist in commercial quantity. Don't go and do what Buhari did in Bauchi the other day. Just went and pointed to a place and said, there's oil. No infrastructure around it, no development around it, just because you want to make Northerners feel good. I'm not saying there's no oil in the north, but there's nothing to show that that oil is of the kind of quantity that we want. And it's not an ego-driven oil find.
All right, the political economist has been raring to go. Really, nothing he said. I deliberately wanted you to speak since you have heard from others so that you would actually know how to respond to the things he has said. So what do you think about the economic blueprint of these political parties and their candidates, the ones that we're facing today, ADGA, PDP, APC, AAC?
Well, thank you for that question. But before I delve into political party and the economic plan for Nigeria, let me start by saying that, congratulating High Chief Raymond Dokpesi on his award by the Nigerian Union of Journalists, an Icon Award. I think that we don't reward or commend people that pioneer different sectors. And High Chief Raymond Dokpesi is someone that we respect because of his trailblazing role that he played.
Tenacity.
Yes. During the military, before democracy, now in democracy. I want to congratulate him for that award he was given.
Thank you very much.
When it comes to political parties and their blueprints, I took the liberty of reading most of them, and my dear brother here, Sowore, I read part of his blueprint with regards to the economy, and I wish that he spoke on one of the things that he always harped on, which is the digital economy and young, which I think is his own strong point. The digital economy and the fourth industrial revolution, as he puts it in his own blueprint. You think about candidates and blueprints as an economist, I will tell you that you can get a bunch of economists to write beautiful blueprints for you, put beautiful numbers. What is pertinent and what is important is the character, competence, capacity, capability of such candidates, of each and every candidate. And I would like to congratulate Sowore here for what he has been doing in our democratic process. Even though he has not been able to benefit from it, Other candidates are benefit from it, like Peter Obi and the Labour Party and the Obedient movement. But people like Sowore are the ones that kick-started that new thinking away from the dominance of the two major political parties. In fact, before the APC even came, it was one major dominant party, which is the People's Democratic Party. But you see, in democracy is better when you have multiples of choices. Like now, running into this election, you have Sowore, you have Rabiu Kwankwaso, you have Atiku Abubakar, you have Asiwaju, you have Peter Obi. Nigerians can now choose, make a choice. Now, when we're talking economy, let me tell you what these candidates, for instance, if Sowore becomes president tomorrow in 2023, this is what it's going to face. First, Nigeria has an unemployment rate of 33%. Now, that 33% just looks like figures. You know what it actually means? It means about 43 million Nigerians are unemployed. These are not Adakola Ijogi's figures, but National Bureau for Statistics. Nigeria has a working population, that is people between the ages of 14 and 64. People who are willing and able to work. Those people are about 128 million people. Now, 33% of that will give about 43 million people who can't find jobs to do. That's what people like Sowore will have to deal with. Nigeria's debt profile as at June 2022 is at 95 trillion naira debt profile. People like Sowore will not have to deal with that. Thirdly, Nigeria has a GDP for the last 7 years. Nigerian GDP has not grown beyond 3% annually. In fact, we have gone into 2 recessions. Sowore and his people and his colleagues, Peter Obi, Atiku, will have to grow the Nigerian GDP for at least 12% 8 consecutive quarters for Nigeria to be pulled out of this economic quagmire that we find ourselves. And then lastly, the value of the currency. That is what I've been reading. I've read the Labour Party, I've read PDP, I've read that of APC, even that of Sowore. I even follow him on the Twitter space. So I've been reading most of his pronouncements. All of them have conveniently skipped the value of the currency. Just as he's placing emphasis now on energy. Of course, without energy, without power, you cannot power the economy. Without security, people cannot even go out to work. But the other critical sector is the value of the currency. What this APC administration has done to the Nigerian economy in the last 7 years is to completely destroy the value of the naira, push this country into 2 recessions, and worse off, created economic contradictions. Nigeria has the largest economy in Africa, GDP size of $445 billion US. Yet the naira is not in the top 10 currencies in Africa. Can you beat that? Even safer, there used to be a backdoor currency to Nigeria, has more value than the naira. So Nigeria is in dire straits. We need serious people who understand it, because, like I say, for the optimum time, it is economic thinking that should drive political processes, not political processes driving economic thinking. The economy matters. It's about our livelihood. It's about our survival. So the economy matters.
All right, I will just like to go to our correspondent, Oge Ihimekpe, who is standing by. He's actually at an emergency meeting of the Labour Party in Abuja. But of course, this discussion continues. We'll just take whatever he has to tell us about that meeting right now. And we would like to look at some of the things that the Tinubu-Shettima tickets is offering Nigerians, says, talking about import substitution and tax reforms. Can we effectively implement that? But that's after a hearing from Oge Ihimekpe. Oge, how is the emergency meeting of the Labour Party going, and why the emergency meeting?
Yeah, the emergency meeting was called over some issues liquid in the Labour Party. One of the recent allegations is that the national chairman of the party, Julius Abure, diverted a lot of money funds. This allegation coming from the National Publicity Secretary, Abayomi Arababi, He says that a lot of funds will be diverted by the national chairman, and the next, from what the briefing we had so far, they have met, they excused the national chairman of that meeting so that they can look into such allegations, and they have come out to say that such allegations are unfounded. What they have done so far is to they have made a statement that the National Public Secretary Abayomi Arabami will be relieved of his duty. That means he ceased from being the Publicity National Secretary. Another decision that the NEC has already reached is also the state chairman of Ogun State, Michael Ashande, has also really, that one has been suspended for anti-party activities, and other ESCOs also have been dissolved. They dissolved the ESCO, and they're also in the meeting to come up with other resolutions.
So the meeting is ongoing. The meeting is still on.
Yes.
So
right now they are in a closed door meeting, and they're trying to find out some of these allegations. They also set up a committee to investigate more detailed investigation, to carry out detailed investigation on the alleged diversion of funds by the national chairman. And again, they also need to investigate the National Publicity Secretary for his utterances that they say allege that some of these utterances are actually against the party at this critical time when the party is preparing for the 2023 election for their own candidate, Peter Obi, to emerge as the president of the 2023 elections, and someone in their midst is already making some of the allegations that the party into crisis.
all right, so we expect to know more as events unfold there. Thank you so much, Oge Ihimekpe. Yes, our correspondent, Oge Ihimekpe, at the emergency meeting of the Labour Party in Abuja. Certainly, there are rumbles within the Labour Party, and at this period towards the election, what do you think, Adakole Jogi?
Well, political parties will always have some kind of internal rumblings because political interests are diverse. Some people want to hold on to their positions. Some people want to remove the other person. This person is looking for money and stuff like that. It's just, the thing is about the culture of the Nigerian people cannot be dissociated from how we operate political parties. So I just think it will sort itself out. Even the PDP is still in their own crisis. The APC still has its own. So I don't know if Sowore has crisis in his own party.
He's had his own fair share. There was a time they were calling that. I think you just came out of the court too.
Well, our own type of crisis is different. My position in the Labour Party is it's an orphanage home. So this is what happens in orphanage homes. You bring all kinds of kids who are looking for spaces to fulfill their ambition. The Labour Party is an old party, and it's always had this kind of problem because when you have a Labour Party with that.
All right, because they're not here to reply you right now.
They can reply me on Twitter. We always we perpetually at this.
All right. So, Adakole, let's look at this issue of import substitution and tax reforms.
Which of the candidates?
Tinubu Shetima.
Oh, okay. I think from all the manifestos I read, I think the APC one is one that is poor. It's not that detailed. They're talking about import substitution and tax reforms, and then give us the details. Those are punchlines. When you say tax reform, what do you mean? Are you going to reduce the tax? Are you going to increase the tax of the rich? What do you mean? When you say import substitution, those are just people just come on national TV or sit in their homes and say what that Nigerians like to use, diversification of the economy. And I've always maintained the position that the Nigerian economy is already diversified. What you need to diversify is our revenue base, our revenue sources. So when you say import substitution, no, but just permit me just to comment on the PDP's manifesto. Yes. And I just want to pick out something that I found interesting. In the PDP manifesto, the Alhaji Atiku Abubakar said he's going to
transform Nigeria into a modern economy.
Go to the details. Okay, he said that he's going to grow the GDP per capita to $5,000 by the year 2030. But you see, that sounds nice. But if you interrogate it further, by the year 2030, using a GDP growth rate of 3.5%, sorry, a population growth rate of 3.5 or 3%, by 2030, Nigeria will be over 250 million. So how can you increase GDP per capita to 5,000 when our GDP at current is 445 billion US dollars? Now, to achieve that 5,000, you have to grow the Nigerian economy. This economy, can you grow that in 7 years? This is 2022. You have 8 more years. Is that feasible? So you see, they say the devil is in the details. I can go on and on. Even in Sowore's, you see, when he spoke on agriculture, I punched a few holes in it. And then the reason why I will not debate him, I will give him his respect as a candidate.
Why not? We can debate it.
No.
By this time next year, I'll be president. You won't have the opportunity to be talking to me. So talk to me now. Let's discuss the issues.
No, the issue I have with your own plan on agriculture is that it's a little bit disconnected from industrialization.
Okay.
Now, when you say you want to grow food production, which you have in your document, growing food production, you have to tie that food production to industrialization. In industrialization, you now have things like storage, transportation, and all of that, plus exports. Now, it is just single for you to say food growth.
But you see, what we discuss here, and this I'm glad you raised it, and this is why you should talk about it, is that part of our economic agenda is for self-sustainability. For this country, not only to be able to grow food, but to be able to grow food that can feed the nation, first and foremost. Mm-hmm. We also have an industrialization agenda. We have a railway, infrastructure project. That's why we call our agenda Spicer Hit, security, power, infrastructure. When you cover the spectrum, you discover that all of these nexuses, if there's a word like that, has been made in the sense that how is it that you grow enough food and we have road and you won't be able to take it to the market? That's already been solved. If I give you abundant railway, it means that you can bring tomato from the north to the south due time, and that those carriages, have refrigerating units. That's why we talk about modern economy. And when somebody says to you, and I love the fact that you mentioned that about Atiku, when somebody says to you that they want to modernize Nigeria, or they want to grow, what is the meaning of that? Like you said, it's just like the APC saying that they want to do import substitution. It's like they went to an economic book written by that Lawa that used to write, and they had it there. They just copied it and put it. When you ask them, we say tax reform. Are you going to tax reform the same way you are doing in Lagos, where the person collecting the tax is different from the person that is spending the money? And so our own, for instance, our tax reform has to do with GDP, a tax to GDP ratio, which is the lowest around the sub-Saharan African region. Mm-hmm. We have about 7%. Mm-hmm. We want to grow out to 15%. We don't want to tax anybody. We want to make sure that the rich is paying their own due of their fair share of the taxes. And then you eliminate the 16 trillion naira that goes into all these fake taxes that they give, waivers from those who get it from, and invest it in the people. 16 trillion naira going to 5 people, I might be exaggerating, it's the same amount of money you can use to revive education, revive your road infrastructure, bring in railway systems that can do the kind of reform and the revolutionizing of the agricultural sector. What we are saying is that instead of buying SUVs, we want to buy tractors so that you can grow enough food. First and foremost, our food needs must be met before we start thinking about exports.
Yes. All right, thank you.
Can I make another point, or you want to move to some?
Because we want to find out what is trending on social media politically, but just in a moment, you just say what you have to say.
I just want to put it out there that after reading the different manifestos from the different political parties, there's one other critical thing that I noticed that is missing about the economy, which is they keep talking about stimulating the economy.
The growth.
No, just stimulating economy, stimulating growth. The way that the level of the Nigerian economy, how bad it is, ordinary stimulation of the economy would not work.
Let me jump into that.
Let me just make a point.
Support him. Yeah.
The next president has to directly intervene in specific sectors of the economy. It's not to stimulate anymore. If you're saying agriculture, you must practically get those tractors that he's talking about, give out land, clear the land, provide money support, provide seedling, and get Nigerians to work.
And let's also just quickly add that our own type of agriculture is not only land-based. Agriculture has reached a digital level where you can grow crops without moving out of the city. You know, hydroponic agriculture or this kind of modern agriculture where you can even grow tomatoes inside. Yes, inside. All right. That's the stage of land in the soil.
All right, let's just go to the social media and find out what is trending politically on social media.
Welcome to Politics on Social Media. I am Omario Day. The cancellation of the PDP primaries in Ebonyi State is generating reactions. And our first reaction concerning that is from John Terry, who says, how can Abuja nullify a case in Ebonyi State? Is there no court in that state? Our next comment concerning that is from Chinaka, who says, I thought there is a Supreme Court ruling on this matter already. Moving on to the next story, the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress